Hi everyone, hope you guys are doing well. I'm Shabazz Sheikh and this is on behalf of the business development team here at Precious Payload. I would like to take this moment and give a token of thanks to Andrew Maximov, who is the CEO and co-founder of Precious Payload, and Dr. Prashant, who has advised me in mapping out the space ecosystem in UAE that comprises a list of all the government bodies, private entities, universities, research centers, and others that have played a crucial role in the development of space sciences and technology in the region. The goal of Precious Payload has always been to enable entrepreneurs start their space companies by building up a set of space mission management collaborative software tools to test the technology and business hypothesis 10 times faster and 5 times cheaper. Hope the space map that is being presented in front of you gives you an overall outlook on how the space ecosystem in UAE is and is beneficial for you guys in the future for any sort of investments. Before talking on how UAE has evolved and strategized itself as an emerging leader amongst the spacefaring nations, as we all know, I would love to share an interesting insight and story of what happened in February of 1976. The late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, who is the UAE's founding father, had a meeting with a delegation from the United States National Aeronautics and Space Administration, in which he asked what could be seen on the Arabian desert from space. This, and his later meetings with the Arab space scientist Farouk Al-Baz, were the first signs of the interest UAE was pursuing with its ambitions in space and space sciences. Also, to let you know, guys, that UAE initially had proposed in 2008 to establish a pan-space Arab agency, similar to the ones we see in the European Union, but wasn't able to gain as much momentum in the Middle East, to which UAE later focused and diversified its interest in oil, IT, and heavy industries, for which it is quite well known for today. The UAE launched the National Strategic Innovation Agenda Space sector in 2014, with a 7-year-old plan aiming at stimulating innovation in major key sector areas such as renewable energy, transportation, education, health, technology, and IT. What you see here is the UAE cabinet that comprises the list of all the sheikhs and their respective advisors, which have helped or contributed more to the formation of the National Space Policy, UAE Space Law, and the National Space Strategy. The UAE Space Law is the fundamental factor here, and the space sector in the UAE is governed by Federal Law number 12 of 2019 of the Regulation of Space Sector. This law aims to create a regulatory environment to achieve the objectives of UAE's National Space Policy. The National Space Policy was issued in 2016 and aims to build a strong, sustainable space sector along with developing scientific and technological capabilities. The National Space Strategy, which was launched in March of 2009, is the strategy that sets general framework for UAE space industry. Here you have the government entities, the commercial activities, any research which is carried out by both public and private is acknowledged as per the National Space Strategy of 2030. To let you guys know, here's an excerpt from the National Space Strategy and defines how the leadership and the national law of UAE dictates the national space policy, space law, and its other regulations. With the pretext of development of space sector here in the UAE, we have different sort of activities carried out. And interestingly, another excerpt from the National Space Strategy is shown here, which defines how the timeline of space has been in the UAE. Initially going forward, we have the launching of the first UAE satellites, and these were the mobile communication satellites, Thuraya Sat 1, which was launched in 2000, 2 in 2003, and Thuraya Sat 3 in 2007. These were the first mobile satellite communications on here. Next, we have Dubai Sat 1, which was launched in 2009 and where the first sort of Dubai Sat 1 in 2009. Then we have the launch of the first UAE satellites for fixed communications such as Yasat 1A, 1B, and then we do have Dubai Sat 2 which was launched initially by Emirates Institute of Advanced Science and Technology, which currently is the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. Following these launches, we had the founding of UAE Space Agency in 2014, followed by MBRSC in 2015, and the establishment of National Space Science and Technology Center in Al Ain in 2016. We do have development and launch of Khalifa Sat in 2018, but specifically and interestingly, we do have the launching of the first UAE nanosat for scientific research made by UAE hands and partnership with other local universities, which is the NAIF one on 2017. Khalifa Sat is well known because it is 100% manufactured by Emirati citizens and is supposed to be the advanced technology satellite in UAE. We do have further amendments and changes that happened after 2019 that I would love to discuss with you guys. Going forward, we have the local companies, entities, and other space ecosystems that I have tabulated into both public and private sector here. The public sector is well known and established in UAE, that consists of the UAE Space Agency, which is the primary regulatory body and the fundamental entity that has been driving space since its initiation in 2014. We have the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center in the Emirate of Dubai, which has been quite active and focuses mostly on independent research and has been the key driving factor in the recent successful Emirates Mars mission. We do have universities and collaborations where either are developing satellites or have launched. For example, UAE University, the NSSTC that I've discussed before, the Khalifa University, which has both the Khalifa University Space Science Technology Innovation Center along with the Yasat Space Lab. We do have another government body of Dubai Electricity and Water. DIWA's Space D projects currently includes the launch of a satellite constellation that is going to support its future main satellite, and this is going to be in conjunction with the Expo 2020 of Dubai, which will be held this year. We do have other collaborations from University of Sharjah, American University of Sharjah, Khalifa University, New York University of Abu Dhabi, and American University of Ras Al Khaimah, to name a few. All these universities have played a major part in the development of technology, scientific payloads, and integration with other systems. In the private field, we have the Yahsat Communications and Thuraya, which it did acquire back in 2018. The Bin Ghalib group of companies, Specific Marshall Intech Group. We have the G42, which has recently launched its new space program, and we are awaiting to hear more about them. We do have our entity Precious Payload, Orbital Space, and OQ Technologies. Moving forward, we do have the UAE Space Agency. The UAE Space Agency was established under the federal law by decree number 1 of 2014, which is headquartered in Abu Dhabi, UAE, and is responsible for developing, fostering, and regulating a sustainable and world-class space sector here in UAE. As mentioned before, it is a federal entity that regulates space sector in the UAE region. Looking into its strategic initiatives, we do have a number of direct investing, directing, and promoting a number of initiatives. To go with the key initiatives that UAE Space Agency has undertaken is the Emirates Mars mission. It has also taken jointly with MBRSC, where UAE was able to successfully launch its first unmanned Mars Hope mission to Mars on July 20 of 2020. The mission goals included to create the first holistic diurnal picture of Mars atmosphere with 3 science instruments which were mounted on the orbiter, and these are going to answer the key questions about the global Martian atmosphere. On September 29th of 2020, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who is the Vice President of UAE and ruler of Dubai, also announced the Emirates Lunar mission to space. This is in accordance with the rover being named as Rashid after his father, who is credited with modernizing Dubai and will cover all the areas not yet reached by Mars. We do also see the Arab Space Pioneers program, which was also initiated and aims to build Arab space expertise in space sciences and technologies, which is a 3-year intensive program. Going forward, we also do have the space tourism, which has been fundamental driving force for bringing in tourism to UAE, and is expected that the Al Ain International Airport will serve as a potential spaceport for this agency. The UAE Space Agency has also, in October 2020, amongst the first signatories that signed the NASA's Artemis Accords on the 71st International Astronautical Congress. This is on par to create a safe and transparent environment that facilitates exploration, science to all humanity. We do also see the National Space Strategy of 2030 that aims to achieve the UAE's vision in the field of space exploration, technologies, and other applications. It also constitutes one of the pillars of the regulatory framework as discussed and shown above. Proceeding along, we have the National Space Science Technology Center, which was a fundamental driver and established jointly by the UAE Space Agency. We have the UAE Emirates University as well as the ICT Fund. This comes under the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority. They jointly established the NSSTC in 2016, for which the operation started in 2017, and the first space projects were announced in 2018. It's headquartered in Al Ain, UAE, and has been a fundamental driving force in initiating the space research utilization, onboard systems, space atmospheric sciences, propulsion and combustion related research establishment within the region. To contribute, one of the initiatives of NSSTC is the building of the AIT facility. We have the Tawazun Economic Council that has formed a collaboration with Airbus and is developing this facility that will be capable of hosting and the development of multiple satellites, each of size up to 200. This also comes on par with the UAE Space Agency initiative of point 0.4. What you see here, guys, are the NSST UAEU satellites, which are under development. Firstly, we have the UAEU 6U CubeSat, and this one has been funded by UAE Space Agency and is a part of the first CubeSat launch of the second IEEE GRSS Student Grand Challenge, which was an international challenge, and followed the willing teams of UPC, Spain, Telkom University of Indonesia, and Kyushu of Japan. We have these that will be developing Earth observation payloads that will be integrated into the CubeSat, being currently developed along with NSSTC and the YASAT Space Lab at Khalifa University. This one is being expected to launch in 2022. Another major initiative of this AIT facility will be development of its first project correlating with the UAE's 2021 navigation satellite, which is represented here. This is in collaboration with both Tawazun and Airbus and will be funded by UAE Space Agency. It is called as the GNSS RF Signaling Technology Demonstrator Satellite. We do have the second project of the AIT facility, which will start soon and is going to be called as the 813 Hypercelestial Satellite. This new satellite has been named as 813 and refers to the date that marked the beginning of the prosperity of the House of Wisdom in Baghdad under the reign of Al-Ma'mun. The multispectral Arab region monitoring satellite will be designed by a number of engineers such as UAE, Jordan, Bahrain, Algeria, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Lebanon, Kuwait, and Morocco. Well, this is the first segment of the space mapping, and I hope you all did get a good picture and glimpse of the entities that have been responsible for space in the region. Thank you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.